Live from the internet, Transparency and Merit is back with Brian and Joe. What's up, Brian? What
I love the intro.
What world are we going to talk about here? This sounds crazy to me.
Well, you know something, Joey? I took a pain tolerance test with my twin brother, who doesn't look anything like me.
How old were you?
I believe I was like 23, maybe 24. It was in the 90s.
Okay.
And he, of course, he had more pain tolerance than me. But I'll tell you something. I then talked to the woman, and I discussed with her like the different groups that have about pain tolerance, both among the genders, sexes, and among the different racial and ethnic groups. And she said point blank that men have a higher pain tolerance. And she was surprised about that, but that's what her study showed. And I did this because there was a YouTube channel that's a psychology channel that says that that women have a higher pain tolerance than men. And this was from, I don't want to play the music, but this is Human Psychology. That's the YouTube channel. And I said, women do not have a higher pain tolerance than men. And this guy says, yes, they do. It was proven back in the 80s. Why? Because women go through the worst pain imaginable. During childbirth, the female body is equipped to deal with pain more effectively. And I have to say that again, and this was in the 80s, but I took this pain tolerance test in the 90s. And she told me that, you know, she had studied pain and that it was men had a higher pain tolerance than women. And then we went on to race, and she said as far as pain tolerance, whites have the highest pain tolerance, and Asians have the lowest. That she on the study, and you know, I remember seeing things, you know, and we'll get into this later about welfare and the disparities. There's a lot of stuff that's I think is statistically and numerically inaccurate. There's an old Phil Donahue show about welfare, and it breaks down the statistics. And the left right now likes to, you know, like for whatever reason, and people that are sensitive to things likes to break things down. And I'll get into that later. But what people believe on racial disparities in welfare, even what they think they know, is completely inaccurate. I believe is inaccurate. And I've seen evidence to the contrary. But yeah, I mean, and I think that this might be kind of a politically correct thing where people think women have a higher pain tolerance. But and the test I did basically was I put my hand into a cold bucket of ice, and it was painful to see how long I could last. And I didn't last that long. My brother, on the other hand, lasted much longer than I did. And then, like I said before, I asked about first. I asked about genders, about male and female, and then I asked about different racial and ethnic groups. And she said things that were like not politically correct, but she said this was the data that we had. You have anything to add on that, Joey?
No, but I think it's all part. Here's what I think when it comes to the male female thing. When women wake up and realize what a complete scam, what a complete selling out the whole women's lib movement ever was from inception. It was the whole women empowerment thing, all of that, and women's rights, all this stuff is was I think women are going to wake up and realize what it is they've really given up with an almost I hate to say a legal but an unfair meeting of the minds sort of thing where it was just kind of happened. But I don't. I think women were misled into doing so many of the things they were. Yeah, and once they realize what's been taken from them, and I think once they that's going to me show the true mettle of women, the pure strength of women, is when they collectively wake up to all that and get. I think we're going in. We are now. I've mentioned this before, but when you talk about ideas like the age of Aquarius and how we've changed into this new age, this is a I'm going by like what the ancient mythology and writings were about, but this age is to be led by women, by the feminine divine, and I think there's going to be this sort of grand awakening, and when that happens, it's like you're almost going to want to wish you were not that women are going to take vengeance or anything like that. I think they're going to wake up to what really has been done, and it's going to be quite a show. It's going to be a good time. It's just how is it going to happen, and to what, who's, people that are in power probably don't want to just walk away from it. I'm guessing. So, I think there's going to be some massive changes though in that on that front. I know it sounds maybe a little bit cryptic, but maybe we'll do a show on this eventually, or can kind of put some research together on it and discuss it. But I do foresee a huge shift, and none of this bogus government issued whatever it is, civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, whatever it is. This whole thing's going to be shifting, and it's shifting now.
I can only tell you what I see as of now. And it doesn't seem like we're in the age of logic and reason anymore. We're in the age of censorship and punishment. And maybe one day, like I said, we will be in the. I mean, there are reasonable people out there, but the fanatics have taken over the discourse and the like, and they'll use any excuse to hammer free thought, freedom of speech, freedom of dialogue, and it's just kind of unfortunate. I, for one, do believe we are in a cold civil war, and it's between the civilized world and the uncivilized world, and it's an economic war that I think that we want to join those who believe in logic and reason, and those who believe in emotion and feeling, and to manipulate and to lie. And I think that the The
I tend
winners.
to disagree with that. Yeah, I disagree. I think that we've already gone through a Cold War in the past, and I don't think it's a Cold War. I think it's more psychological. It's more economical. They're crushing the middle class right now. It's like not even close. I mean, they are just bashing the middle class down every single day. Do you know that we haven't had any good economic news probably since before Obama came around? We have not had any positive movement, any positive news, no real news that comes out and just sets the market on fire. And you know, so it's really interesting that and I forget the names of all these characters, but one of the chief economists, some politician, maybe a guy from the Federal Reserve, actually, now that I think about it. Well, he came out and made an official statement Saturday and said to that the economy is slowing. Okay, we knew that. The economy is slowing, and to temper your expectations, right? Now, normally in a normal world where all what you were saying makes sense, right? But nothing about the market makes sense right now at all. So, what would you think if somebody comes out from the Feds and says that the economy is slowing and to temper your expectations? What impact do you think that would have on the stock market?
Yeah, it does sound pretty awful, to be honest with you.
It sounds like, but here's the thing, Brian. You'd think it would send the stock market down, but since this has been a pattern that's been happening, like I said, almost since Obama, maybe even before. Um, a lot of us knew today was going to be a green day, a positive day in the stock market. What a surprise!
Sure.
Last week, the economic news that came out was that there were 500,000 new unemployment applications. You'd think that would send the market down the next day, but guess what? We had a green up day the day after that was announced, and this has been happening for months. And I don't know if people are catching on to this or not, but it's like the worse the economic news, the higher the stock market goes, and it's at record highs right now. Go explain that. It makes no sense.
You know what? I can't wrap my head around it, Joe.
Yeah.
And there are things that don't make any sense. But one of the reasons, we want to be able to talk about all sorts of things.
Right.
And like I said, the economy is really confusing. It's like, yeah, when the head of the Fed says a slowdown, you think that that would put a dip, it wouldn't go up, but everything the thing of it is, if you just listen to like your head, like what your objective thought is and reason. If you're playing the economic stock market, you could be completely wrong. And I don't know why the stock market is doing well. I don't know why the stock market does bad. I just know, like, when it's up, it's up. When it's down, it's down. But I don't wrap my head around what makes a market work. I mean, because there's so many variables, Joe. And I've heard before that, like, picking stocks a lot of times is like throwing darts at a board. At some point.
Well. That all depends on at a low level a low level investor. They're going to get nickeled and dimed as if they were in a slot machine in Vegas. That's just how they seem to work. People do get lucky and hit it, but there's a lot of scammeroos. But there's a lot of ways also to outperform the bank. The banks pay out less than a dollar what is it? The less than 1%. So, it takes a lot of money to make money just letting it sit there in the bank. But there are ways to outperform it with that are, I wouldn't say risk free. There's always a risk, but it's very, very low risk, and um, you know, so there are ways to do it. But I do think you're right. For a lot of people, it's almost as if throwing a dart at a dartboard seems to show that it's just such a weird, it has such a weird nature. It's kind of like what I think are I the way I see politics. There's just the stock market has these and maybe a lot of websites now, a lot of big social networks work on algorithms. I mean, it's probably just all computerized, I would imagine, at a very high level of data inputting. So,
And it's just unfortunate that the common man, because before the common man could hear all kinds of things in different types of philosophies, and now it's just like it's so hard to get things out there, and they want and then they want one set of things, and they say reliable sources, but these reliable sources have been wrong, particularly on this pandemic. So what we're trying to do, I think, with our thing is put out different points of view. And the truth is, I think the public has to decide to decipher for themselves what is true and what isn't, and look at the evidence and look at the hard evidence. Anyway, Joe, I am going to get myself to bed. Is there anything else to add before we call the show a day?
I think we're good.
That's it. All right, guys. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Maybe even share the show. And go to our website, Transparency and Merit. We will be working on it as time goes on. Thank you very much.